What's up, good people? Let me know if you can hear me. If I don't get any joints saying that you can, we're going to get right into it. So the EcoFlow River 2 is coming out soon. I think October 25th is the day. It's a very interesting spread of devices. Once again, they have 3 joints. They have the EcoFlow River 2 base model, they have a max model, and then they have a pro model. Now, the specs, Jojo, stop. Now, the specs are interesting to say the least. Man, I've been kind of taking it in over the last few days, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I was talking to my man Wayne, and it was like it seems like they took one step forward and one step backwards, depending on the device you're looking at. So let's get into it a little bit. Yeah, my little homie. I just joined. I didn't join. I've been in the EcoFlow groups for a while, but I joined as my askivesolar Facebook page, which is cool that they allow me to do that. So I've been looking at the posts and stuff like that because I'm not really a in the groups kind of guy, which is a lot of reason why I'm not always in the loop. But I'm okay with that. I do have something I want to show you guys, which is the spec sheet. They just came out today with the price list. So we know prices and we know the specs. There's still some unanswered questions, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're just going to do this whole monitor.
Ivan, you have to come with the ride.
What's up, Shots at Hobby? Jason Noy, what's happening? Let's see the prices. It's around here somewhere. Let me see what we got here.
We have to come for the ride.
Guys, I need y'all to go into the other space. All right? And I need you to not be loud. So a couple posts I was looking at, that one had some prices on it, but I think I should have a price list somewhere. God dog it.
No.
I had a couple joints I wanted to pull up, and I lost them in some capacity, which is just sucks. So, dang it. I seem to have misplaced the tab that had the prices in it. Shoot. So basically, the base model is going to be the cheapest. I think I saw $191 because it's going to have a 20% off coupon. Let me find that post, man. I hate that I didn't have this freaking post up. I thought I did. I tried to save all the tabs that I was into. Some foolishness. Let me pull that down for a second so I can try and find this. But let me tell you something just off top while I look for this. The EcoFlow base model is not that impressive in the grand scheme of things. Now, if you want to go from this idea of like looking at how much we spent from the, okay, here it is, boom, came right up. I thought I had this post saved. I was pretty sure of it. Okay, I do. Maybe I was just scrolled down. Boom. I blew it. Let's bring this back up. So here are some prices. So they say the River 2 US is going to be $239. You hear that? $239. What does that sound like? We'll get into that in a second. The max. Okay, here it is. The River 2 Max is going to be $469. And then the River, they didn't put the price for the Pro. That's interesting. So we kind of have to play the guessing game on what the Pro is going to cost. Interesting. So I guess the Pro is not available. So you got $239 with 20% off, and then you have $469 no joint. It's just $500, which is interesting. That River Max, if we go to the spec sheet, I have an image that I could pull up here that's a little bigger. At least I thought I did. Dang, could you be any more unprepared? It's like I tried to prepare. I really did. Loose files. Let's see if it's in here. I got a screen grab of it. Man, I don't know what's going on. I had these files up here, unless it's just hiding on my second desktop. You ever not be able to find something on your desktop? Let's see. Where I know I downloaded this file. I know I did. This is some frackinackle, in the words of Michael Baisden. All right, we're just gonna have to use this, which kind of sucks. I'll just save an image again. Shoot. All right, desktop. Bam. You can see I downloaded it already. Same thing right there. Let's bring this over. You can bring it up and then zoom it in a little bit. This is the bread and butter right here, guys. This spec sheet right here. Crazy. Hey, Kimberjack. What's up, Nathan? I missed your joint set type. What's happening? My real desktop. Computer desktop. I dig that. I ain't mad at that. I'm with you. We talked about that. I have to leave some stuff on the desktop, but for the most part, I try not to store stuff on my desktop, because it slows your computer down. Oh, okay. I got you, Jason. So the EcoFlow River 2, 256 watt hours, only charges at 110 watts from solar. I was bummed at that. Completely bummed. This new series, as you guys, if you've been paying attention, it has the LifePO batteries inside of it, the whole series. I'm kind of excited about that. But this base model, man, it's only a 300 watt inverter, 110 watts from solar. It has LFP, only one USB-C port, which is across the whole lot of them. I wish they had more than one USB-C. I wish they had bidirectional charging, but they do not. It's like a 300 watt inverter and 100 watts of solar charging. Sucks for me. If I could just be honest, man, I'm not happy about that. But what I've been speculating on is I wonder if the small size is going to be its saving grace. That's the only thing. It's like when you get it in your hands, is it going to be such a nice, clean, portable device that you feel like I could deal with that? Now, let's put this into perspective, right? As much as I have my critiques, it's still a dope device. You think about it, at that $240 price point, which is very similar to the Bluetti EB3A, which I mean, the obvious thing is the EB3A is crushing this outside of size. It has 600 watt inverter. It can do the eco boost or whatever it is up to 12. It can charge at up to, let's say, 166 watts from solar, because that 8.5 amp input limit is still a problem. So you can't really get close to the 200, but it says it gets 200. Also, it doesn't show here. This is a little nitpick of mine. It's just me. I've been looking at power stations for the last couple of years. And whenever I see this, I'm kind of always feeling like, But the base model, I don't know if the other two models, I don't think the other two models have this problem. Let me see. The base model, the AC outlet is upside down. I don't expect that from a big three device. I expect that from the Wackery, which is the chiffon. I expect that from Rock Pals. I expect that from other companies. But an upside down AC outlet, it's a little off-putting for me because of my history. That's all I'm saying. It's just like upside down USB-C ports. I'm sorry, USB-A ports and upside down HDMI ports. I feel like it's kind of a sign of you just had to do what you had to do to get those components in there. And sometimes flipping a thing upside down makes it fit better, I assume. So that's pretty disappointing to me that it's upside down. I shouldn't say disappointing. It's a red flag for me. But the device is really small. So I have to kind of give them some grace there. But I'm just here to share with y'all my initial thoughts on it. Let me see what y'all snapping and driving about. All right, Mouse, get over here. Okay, Jason is saying they do support bidirectional. You are the first person to mention that. I wish Wayne was around because I'm sure he has the EcoFlow Mini. Rhea has the Mini too. I didn't see anybody say that they support bidirectional charging. I did not see that, sir. Solar input is interesting. It doesn't scale with the other specs. The other specs with the other devices or with this device. I mean, you put it into perspective. It's still a really good device. It's just a step backwards from what made that River base model so compelling. Remember, the River Max and the River Pro all share the same specs across that whole line. So you could get essentially the same device cheaper, but just with less watt hour capacity, but it was still capable. 200 watts of solar, 600-watt inverter. You know what I mean? The app control. It's the same number of outlets. So they went a different direction with this one. But the problem is, I was really intrigued by that, what that price is going to be. But you got a device that's coming out at $240. I'll be honest with you, it's going to have to live at $199 with the EB38 always going on sale for $210. The EB3A is a better device. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't going to be situations and lifestyles that will call for an EcoFlow River 2 with LFP in it. I'm sure there will be. I think that some people are just going to like the idea of having an EcoFlow because they're in the EcoFlow ecosystem, maybe for the fanboys. I don't know if EcoFlow has fanboys, but it's an interesting thing. Like 199, I'm intrigued. But at 240, it's again, I can't say this enough. It's still a great device because you think about that in contrast to the Go Labs. That's $199. The Energizer P320, typically like $269. I feel like we was getting a good deal on that dip when it was like 240 or something like that. I think the cheapest I've seen it was like 240. It may have been a little bit cheaper for people who caught it really, really early. Which begs the question, what is going to happen to these other non-mainstream power stations like the Go Labs R300, like the Energizer P320? What are some of the other ones that kind of float in this $100 or $200 space? I mean, you even have some of the smaller ones that I talked about, the Sateki. Even the old Bodens is still out there at like 140, which is bananas. But it's an interesting thing, man. I think it's going to be really compelling. The EB3A at 210 made it the king of the small power stations. That 256 watt hours had me kind of like, but it's still the best power station you can buy. And I don't think this EcoFlow River 2 is going to change that. What do you guys think? Cycling Tools, what's happening? So the model you have does, are you saying you have the EcoFlow River 2? Or are you talking about the EcoFlow Mini Dip? They be showing you love, bro. I'm happy for you. I'm a little jealous, just a little bit, but I'm happy for you. Truly. I wouldn't say I'm jealous either. Let's see, the River 2. Okay, that's great. That's great. That's another consideration point for me because USB-C bidirectional charging is really important to me on 100-watt bidirectional charging. It's really important to me on these smaller power stations, even on some 500-watt-hour power stations. Now, if we move on to the EcoFlow River Max, that one is very compelling because it's 512 watt hours. Now it starts to get interesting. This one is kind of returning to the EcoFlow glory. 600 watts of AC output. Why is it saying input here? Okay, I'm looking at the wrong thing. It has 500 watts. Okay, yeah. So it has, low voltage, 4 outlets, 500 watt total. So it's a 500 watt inverter. So that's cool. Surge is 1,000. I don't care about surge. The X Boost is 1,000, which I don't use either. I feel like you have to be very weary of using X Boost anyway. I feel like I need something a little bit different here. That's just stupid. Why would I do that? That's better. I could live with that. Hey, Siobhan, what's happening? Let's see. Basically, long story short, the EcoFlow River 2 Max really, in my opinion, at the moment has no competition. There really isn't a mainstream LifePO 500 watt hour power station that you can get, and that dip is going to be less than $1 a watt. I think it comes in at like $4.69 or something like that if we reference the price screen again, which I'll get to in a second. This one is very compelling. 500 watts. That's cool. I could dig that. I think it has maybe a few more AC outlets. Let's see. Yeah, it has 4 outlets. The Pro also has 4 outlets, so it's interesting. How much does it charge from solar? Okay, this one is up to 220 watts. The interesting thing about this one compared to the River 2, right? You with me? Is that this one has a 50-volt input limit, which is very nice. It's not like great or anything, but comparing it to other power stations, what that gives you is that gives you the ability to put 2 12-volt panels in series. You can take a 12-volt panel, which is realistically about 20, 21, 22, 19, 18, whatever. It's a range, it's like a spectrum. But you can put 2 of those connected in series. You don't have to worry about a parallel cable, and you don't have to worry about exceeding the voltage. So this makes it like a legit power station. There aren't very many, if any. I don't think there are any like 300, 500, 700 watt power stations, watt hour power stations that have 50-volt solar input. So that's really dope. I was happy to see that. 50 volts is cool. To put that into perspective, my Alcatel and Ace Volt, which are 2,000 watt hours, 2,000 watt inverters, also have a 50-volt input limit. That's just bananas. You could work with it though. Realistically, most people will probably string together 2 panels in their situation anyway. By the time we start getting to the point where we have like 2 and 3 panels, you're probably at a point where you're considering something serious as a power station. Now, I could be misspeaking, but that's kind of like my logic. Interesting contrast, man, to have this dip charging at 100 watts with an 8 amp max limit, which is very similar. It's pretty much the same as the EB3A, but these have 13 amp limits and they have 50-volt limits. Now, I plan on doing a test. I don't know if I'm going to record it. It may be too much of a hassle, but I may report back. I plan on doing a test soon to see how much watt output, how much amp output my 10 amp panels actually do. What's up, buddy?
I'm about to go for a ride with my mom.
Okay, nice. Is that the word? Sure. 1 second, guys. Give me a hug. Love you. You want to say hi?
Mm-hmm.
Come on up. Say hi.
Hi. And I want to say hi too.
Come on, say hi. You just tall enough. Say hi.
Hi. Hi.
Wave.
Hi. Hi, guys.
Hey, mama, you want to say hi too? Say hi. Nice. Good job, mama. All right, you got to get down so I can give Ivan a hug.
Okay, so can I give you a hug? Oh, you too.
Love you.
Can you just say I?
Who? I love you too, mama. Did y'all go pee?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, get out of the camera. The camera's right there.
Oh, man.
So it's not here, it's up here. All right.
I wanna say bye.
Well, say bye.
Bye.
Go bring your hand over here. Now wave. Say bye.
Say bye.
You want to say bye too?
Yeah.
Y'all are killing me right now. Jeez. You're lucky y'all are cute kids. Say bye-bye.
Bye.
What's up?
Why does it record at? I see like buttons over here.
This doesn't record, it just streams. This is the camera lens, right? Thanks, subject to change. I appreciate that.
What? Like how does it like?
Ivan, this is not Q&A time. We can talk about how this stuff works after I'm not live, okay? Thanks, buddy. Dean, what's happening? It's been a minute. I know, right? Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Names. I'm not going to volunteer it. It's like, but you know, I'm somewhat private off of principle. I don't necessarily have anything that high, but me and my son share the same name, so we call him Little Ive. We do nicknames: Jojo, Saya, And she don't have a nickname. What you doing, mama? At least a truncation of her name. Come on, get down, mama, so you can go with mommy. Cut it out. Thank you. All right, back to the lecture at hand. Perfection is perfected. So I let them understand. Oh man, the mid range dip. I haven't been paying very close attention to the EcoFlow Pro. I kind of have to look at that one a little bit closely. But I think the EcoFlow River 2 Max is going to be a very interesting device. I think all you really have out there right now, you got like the Oops, which has its problems, the Big Blue Cell Power 500. I didn't even see that on the Amazon website when I did the triple charging video. I tried to put a link in the video, but I couldn't find it. I reached out to them recently and they were like, yeah, when we update it, we'll send you another one. I don't know if they were lying or not or just blowing smoke, but whatever. We'll see how it works out. And you have the Jackery, which is, might as well not exist for most people unless you need lightweight action. And some people do. They need they need the name, the notoriety, they need the customer support, and they need the lightweight aspect of the Jackery 500. But I don't think that dip has been updated since it came out. So it still is missing features that the 1000 has, but none of them have the features that the 300 has, which is a complete weird thing. And it's still not LifePO. And they don't seem to be going to LifePO anytime soon. Maybe the next iteration after they milk the people who buy their power stations for another 1 or 2. We'll see. All right, baby. Bye-bye, mama. Let me know where y'all headed to, okay? Okay. All right, thanks. They say, oops, right? There's nothing. Now, Ace Volt has, I'm sorry, there's not nothing. I often forget about the EB55 and the EB70S, mainly because they're so old. Super capable devices. The 55 is a weird one for me. It has these nice features, but I feel like they're not cohesive enough to be appealing to me. So much so that I don't even remember. I think it has some weird ability to dual charge, but it's dual charging against a 400 watt hour capacity battery or whatever it is, and it's just I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. They need to bring those features to the 700 watt hour capacity. They could probably do great to have a 1000. But now EcoFlow has the Delta 2 at $1,000 and it's on sale. It's like $950. It's $50 off on Amazon. I don't know what you're going to do with that. I don't know what Bluetti's next move is going to be. But anyway, so you look at this 220 watts of solar input. You can span that across 2 panels in series so that you could do 2 100 watt panels in series. That's about the extent by which I would put panels in series. I wouldn't give them anything more. The real sad part is that over here on the Pro, if we pull it back up, over here on the Pro, it has the same specs as the Max. It would have been nice to have that Pro be able to charge at 400 watts. That would have been dope because they have a 400 watt panel. Their 400 watt panel, I don't know what the specs are. I'm very utilitarian in terms of information. Jason Noy might know. But that would have been great if you could have took that 400 watt panel or the Bluetti the Bluetti 350 watt and popped that into that EcoFlow Pro. But with it having the 220 watt limit, I'm kind of in thinking about that, I'm kind of disappointed in that. Very capable devices still. I can't say that enough, but it's just looking at it in terms of wow factor, man, these are dope specs. I don't know if it's there. I'm hypercritical, especially as it relates to my money. I'm super picky, but thinking about these devices and kind of digging into the specs hopefully allows you to be thoughtful and analytical about what makes sense to you. You sit there and look at a situation where I'm only ever going to have a 200 watt panel hooked into this dip in one of my zones anyway. This is me quoting someone, fictitious person. Then you're ultimately fine. The device is super capable. Another thing is I haven't seen anyone talk about extended battery life on any of these devices in terms of adding an extra battery. I also don't know how I feel about the design. I think it's one of those things as I start to see more videos about it.
Anyone that got data, so I can tell her.
Nothing she has is gonna have data.
Well, what you use?
Um,
And I can tell her.
it's like my main phone. This is a bad time for that,
Sorry.
and it's not charged. It's at 1%.
Oh my God.
You would have to charge it. You have the capacity to charge it in the car.
iPhone?
This phone, if I give it to you, if I sacrifice my well-being and my ability to, you know what I mean, be productive.
Sorry, guys.
Now, what you going? It has nothing on it. So whatever you're gonna do for her.
Netflix.
I mean, it has Netflix on it and
Or
Hulu.
Disney Plus?
It doesn't have Disney Plus. The only thing that has Disney Plus on it is this tip.
She's not gonna tell her using my data.
Wait, hold on. Let's take this one. This one has unlimited data.
Oh. Disney Plus on it?
No, you're gonna have to download it still.
Okay.
Okay. This one should be fine. Hopefully Disney Plus works on it.
Sorry.
Here, take the iPhone 2 just in case, because that one has Disney Plus, but use that to tether. Okay, yeah.
This one.
That one, yeah. All right, get out of here. Or don't. But like I was saying, somebody can actually find themselves in these devices, and it'll work for them. I listen, I was thinking about the EcoFlow River 2 Max and how that one would be really cool to have as a 500 watt hour joint. But that's just me kind of like, what do I call it? How does this work? There we go. I'm an incrementalist. Sometimes I allow myself to iterate and go from one level to one level. When they're in real life actuality, I don't need the Max or the Pro. I probably need like the Delta 2. That just would be the most ideal power station for me to have at this point. With me having the Big Blue, with me having the Bullback, with me having the Oops, I have a bunch of 500 watt hour power stations. They're not the best, but I still have myself covered there. What I don't have myself covered with is a LifePO power station that has 1,000 watts that can do 1,800 watts of AC output. Now, the issue with that River 2, I think I talked about it last time, is it has that 50 volt charging limit as well. So you can't do too much solarly with it. But it's a cool device, man. It'd be nice. I like the fact that it's $1,000. It's not like 1,200, $1,299, $1,199. It's $1,000. It's on sale for $950 right now. If I was in the market for that range, that's about the amount of money that I'd be comfortable spending on that type of device. You keep that. Consider that I got the EB120 because I think it had 800 cycles. I don't know how many cycles it has. It's not the 500. It's a little bit more than that. It may be more than 800. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But that dip was 1,200. It had a 1,000 watt inverter. I thought that was a good, for the amount of money I was comfortable with spending. That was a good kind of gradual increase for me. As it relates to a power station. I wish the inverter was bigger, but the Delta 2, that's a good one. I don't think there's any competition for that one right now. What's up, some more? Yeah, it's like you go from the EcoFlow River being like a beast of a little machine. The only thing it was really missing is USB-C bidirectional charging, maybe 2 USB-C 100 watt ports, and LifePO. If it had all of those, that thing would crush. And yet and still we have a new iteration of this device, and we got LifePO, but you still got one USB-C. Jason Ord is saying it's bidirectional. I take the good brother's word on that because I'm sure he's testing the crap out of it. I'm weird about stuff like that, man. I use my Canon T3i right now because no camera in the market is impressive to me for me to spend $700-800 that I don't really have on trying to get a camera to produce like better quality footage for the channel. We have multiple channels. So now I got to deal with these, letter boxes, and I don't get 1080. I have to do 720. But this was given to me by my little bro, so it's like I'm gonna use what I have. I'm good money, so I'm not in a hurry to like spend on these iterations. Even though I'm very incremental, I'm incremental very strategically. Like the EcoFlow River 2 Max, I really like that one because I could put 2 panels on it. I think that that's dope. 512 watt hours is a good look. I think that these devices are interesting. The EcoFlow River 2, the base model, the only real appeal I see for that dip is if that form factor is just so compelling. And I've looked at some stuff on here, and I'm looking at it like it is interesting. To have it in hand is a different thing, but 256 watt hours, it's like that one is really a situation that would, I think, be appealing for you if you had um, a very specific use case and a lifestyle that kind of warranted something so small. Like you moved and shaked all the time, and you needed something that was like because you think about, the Jackery 300 charges at 85 watts of solar. Like everything for me is it doesn't live in a vacuum. I'm always looking at things comparatively. The Jackery 300, the cheapest it is like 210, not LifePO. The max solar input on an 8 millimeter jack is 85 watts. The EB3A up to 160 somehow watts realistically, 200 watts on paper, but you can't get that. Everything else charges at 60 watts. The Energizer P320, 60 watts. The GoLabs R300, 60 watts. The GoLabs i200, 60 watts. Even that smart list dip that I have upstairs that's in obscurity, nobody deals with that particular dip, 60 watts. The Big Blue, 100 watts. The Oops, 100 watts. Whether they can get there or not is kind of a different thing, but a 100-watt panel is not going to get you there anyway. But they're maxed out at about 100 watts. So this dip, comparatively, the EcoFlow River 2 base model is still a dope machine. It's a dope little power station, but the EB3A has bested it. They came out before it. Go figure. Let me see what y'all snapping and trapping about. Yeah, they said that, but EcoFlow is going to figure that out. The first River 2 was loud. The fan was loud, and it was constant. I don't know if it was loud, but it was constant. People complained, and they put out a firmware update, and they were like, okay, we'll turn the fan off. If your device dies in 18 months, I mean, what you know what I mean? But another thing is these devices have really good warranties on them. I think they have 5-year warranties, if I saw that correct. Let's get back into this real quick and see what's going on here. Where's the price? I thought this was interesting. Let's see. This little super shallow versus the River 2 compared to the River. It charges in an hour versus 1.6. It's like, who cares? Whatever. Fast is fast. Both of the dips are blazing fast. This one is just faster, which is cool. Very light, 7.7 pounds versus 11. I thought the EcoFlow River was kind of heavy, but it had all of that technology in it and stuff like that. That's another thing, man. You're going to miss out on. Jason, do you know if the EcoFlow River 2 has UPS? I feel like you're going to kind of miss out on that. I hope it has UPS, but where is it? Where would it be? Let me see if he answers. What's up, Delgado? Late, of course. All right, let me read these comments before I go on another joint. Are you planning on getting the River Max 2? No, I'm not. I wouldn't get the 2. I'm trying to think realistically, what good would the 2 do me right now? I have to be very thoughtful of that. 100-watt input. Actually, it would be good in because right now, okay, good question, Wayne. Right now, because I have more than my 3 or 4 zones, I have unofficial zones as well that don't really power anything, but it's where I have power stations. Right by my front door, I have a power station, which is typically a Rock Pals right now. The Rock Pals can take in up to 72 72 watts of solar. Then at my back door, my back window brings in a solar panel for my EB70, and it also brings in another 100-watt panel that goes into my Jackery or my Oops, or sometimes the Big Blue, because the Jackery and the Oops take 8mm, and that's an 8mm cable back there. And then I could charge the Big Blue with a 55. I can do a 8mm to 55-25, which is what the Big Blue and Bull Bat use. So with that dip, it's kind of like, it's interesting because it would work in either one of those spots. It would work well. So I could put it at the front door on my Renogy Black Label or whatever Black Division panel. That would be cool. But it uses XT60, which I'm not a fan of. I like XT60, but I don't like XT60 in all situations. XT60, when I want versatility, is a problem. 55-25, 55-21, and 8mm when I want versatility is great. I like that. So what I mean is, if I got that River Pro or the River 2, and I have XT60 at my front door, actually that wouldn't work. My point is, I couldn't charge anything else right there, and that sucks. Now I could throw the River there, you know what I mean? That'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. But I don't know. It's like at that point, and then here's the problem. Here's the problem with that 256 watt hour. It would get full like that. That's the issue as well. So sure, I could take a River 2, EcoFlow River 2, put it in a zone. If it's out there getting sun, let's say in the summer months all day, it's full in like 2-3 hours. What, 70, 71, 44 hours? You know what I mean? And it's done. So I'd have to plug something into that. I can't just sit it there and let it just soak up all the sun and not worry about it. I love having that capability to not be worried about the fact that this thing is going to max out. Y'all know I've been power dumping for months. You know what I mean? I'm just starting to get to a place where in most of my situations, I don't have to necessarily manage it, but I still do. I have to run around because of this EcoFlow River I had to put back in the front because of how it's going to use these particular joints because of this feature. I'm making a really cool video about this soon. It's going to be very interesting. So I don't see it. I'd much rather have the Max. The Max would be a good look. But I ain't got $500 for it. Not at all. Now, if EcoFlow wanted to send me one, which is not necessarily realistic right now, what I think with my subscriber numbers, I got like 200. Because Bluetti will sell you a device at a discount. I don't know if EcoFlow does that, but I got like 200, 250 on one of them. 200 is better, but I ain't got 469 or whatever for it. But that's just me. You know what I mean, guys? I got like 19 power stations. So I'd love to be able to be in a position where I could be in possession of these devices to make videos on them. But I don't have it like that right now. I got to keep growing the channel. Good question. After using the EB3A fills, those small power stations is not enough juice. Rather save money for the Delta 2 or the Delta 4. That's what I kind of evolved to over the months, like early on. I feel like my particular stance is get you one nice small power station to just give you some peace of mind. So you know that if push came to shove, you could charge up your cell phones. You wouldn't be sitting in the dark. Get you a 100-watt panel. A 200-watt panel is ideal. There are power stations out there that can actually take in power from a 200-watt panel. Get you a smaller power station, EB3A, new EcoFlow, River 2, Scrub, other batch. Get you a 200-watt panel and then save up your money for something that's in the $1,500 or the Delta 2. The Delta 2 is nice. The thing that makes that dip so nice is that it has that 1,800-watt inverter. It's not like 1,600, 1,200, 1,400. It's 1,800 watts. I think that dip is almost perfect for most people in holding them down. It has the 50-volt input limit, I believe, which means you can get at least 400 watts of solar into it. maybe a little bit more if you buy like a Renogy 450, or I don't know what the specs are on the Renogy 550 in terms of amps, but I'm with you there. Buy something small, then get something nice. Yeah, it's small. I got excited and bought 2 of them, but I keep draining it way too fast. Yeah, that's that 256, man. It sucks. It really does. And then EcoFlow coming right behind them. Oh, we talked about that. Subject to change. For my air travel needs, I'm looking at the GooLoo GTX, and I need a 50 watt small foldable panel. What is in my face? Let me go get the GooLoo. I have the GooLoo. I got this wireless mic on so y'all can hear me. You know what I mean? It's like I'm improving slowly but surely. I love this thing, man. This GooLoo is nice. It has its whatevers, but it's nice. It is nice. This is what Subject to Change is talking about. It's a little heavy, but I like the fact that I talked about this last live. I'm not gonna get into it again. That screen, man. Geez, where is it? I love that screen, and it shows watt output. Has 100 watt PD. It has a 12 volt socket on it. Quick charge, normal USB-C. I wish it had more than one USB-C port. Excellent little device. Pretty nice. Flashlight on it, man. It's just clutch. All right. Now they don't provide any solar cable with those solar generators. Is not a smart move. You know what? I wanted to try and confirm that, but I couldn't. If Jason Oy is still around, can he confirm it? Wayne may know as well, but I didn't. I was looking at the package contents and I saw no MC4 to XC60 listed on that dip, and I thought that was wild. It's like bad enough you're coming behind the EB3A in terms of its capabilities, but you also, because the EB3A don't have the power cord in it either. Does anybody know if they actually got reimbursed for a cable, or Bluetti sent them an MC4 to 8mm? I think I don't know if it was Shar Farmade or Darlene or somebody. Somebody told me that they got reimbursed for the cable. I still love my EcoFlow River Pro and extra battery. Don't need to replace it for years. I would go to the Delta 2. I dig that. That device is impressive. I have moments in my life, Wayne can kind of attest to this. Every now and then I look at that dip and I'm just like, man, that would be nice to have. But then it's like, oh man, it's a nice little device. Really nice. And it's like at the end of the day, sure, we love LifePO. I love LifePO, especially for me, because I hammer these power stations every day. They all get power into them for the most part every day, except maybe my SmartLess and my Bodens. But everything else gets something, it gets power put through it. Even the NMC ones or whatever they are. The EcoFlow has been getting hammered every day since jump. So it is what it is, but it's going to drop down to 80%. I got 20% less battery. It's fine. It's still going to work. And I'm good, because at the end of the day, I like the ability to get the power in and use it. Storing the power is great, but that has always been my first kind of love. Getting the power in, using the power, because I want to reduce my electrical draw off of the grid, thus reducing my bill. I think that's the real thing EcoFlow has going for them. The extendable small batteries you can buy small and increase later. Now, what EcoFlow should have did, EcoFlow should have went the route of, and Hobotech, I got to give him credit for this, because he's the first one that introduced this thought when he first reviewed the EcoFlow River, the EcoFlow R600 Pro, which was LifePO. Or maybe he had the Max or whatever. But the first one, the Kickstarter one, the Pro model had LifePO in it. But he said it was really unwise on their part. I'm not paraphrasing him. I'm not even verbatim. But to have the device have the battery within it and also have it be able to be extended, because what do those batteries do when they mismatch? Like if you got an EcoFlow River base model and then, like your boy, I add the Max one, how well are they gonna work together when one battery is new and one battery is not? I'm sure as tech savvy as those people are, they worked it out, they figured it out. But I don't know what you do in that situation. So I don't necessarily like the idea of the AC300 being separate from the battery, but I think it's dope that it is, because if you have an issue, you replace the battery and then you're good to go. You don't have to send back the head unit. You know what I mean? You can just get another battery. If the head unit has an issue, those batteries are still usable. I think Ecoflow, Bluetti did it right. I'm waiting for Ecoflow to catch up. I don't know if they're interested in it, but they should be. Talked about that. What's happening? Does any device do 1.8 capacity inversion? That's like a 30-minute device. I have no idea what that means or what you're talking about. Do you just want it for something like an air conditioner? Does any device do 1.8 capacity? What do you mean when you say that? You mean 1800? Jason is saying he doesn't think it has a UPS. Yeah, I don't think it does either. I feel like somebody would have mentioned that, but nobody mentioned the bidirectional charging. That's blowing my mind right now. It kind of puts a new spin on that for me. Also, do you know if it dual charges? Because that would be cool if any capacity, like say you could charge it from solar and USB-C, that would be nice. If you could triple charge it, that would be bananas. That's getting into the EB55 area where it's like you got all of this capacity, you got all of these feature-rich things going on for this super small battery. You know what I mean? It's just like to go through the hassle. And I talked about this before, but my issue with that EB55, and I know Jason Oya has one. He did a video on it, or he had one at least at one point. The issue with the EB55 is they took it. They gave it XT60, which was weird. So now the solar input on that was XT60. And then it also had an 8mm barrel connector, which was cool. But then they took the 8mm barrel connector and they gave it a super slim voltage range. So literally all you can do with that dip is charge it from the wall. So in a situation where you want to be able to charge from solar and the wall, I don't, outside of like the hurricane bearing down for you on you and you get like power an hour at a time, or maybe you're in a brownout, a rolling blackout situation, I don't see how that is helpful to be able to charge from solar and the wall at the same time. But I'm not a charge from the wall guy. So what I do appreciate, or what I would have liked, is to be able to charge from solar and 12 volt at the same time, because then maybe you could power dump into it. Like say it was a super capable power station, had a nice inverter in it, but you had something that wasn't necessarily that great, but had a lot of watt hour capacity, then you could charge that, have that stacked up, take that power from that, while solar is also coming in, and then feed it into your beastier system to power real stuff. You know what I mean? Like to run a microwave for a few minutes, supplementing the power from solar and 12 volt. To do that from AC and solar, I just didn't see the vision. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird, but I didn't see it as being useful. But the UPS mode is super buggy on the EB3A. Yeah, Setai has some issues with his UPS mode. Yeah, he's saying it now. I had a UPS fill on my EB3A. It was just running my modem and router at 40 watts, but somehow it died on me. Yeah, that's interesting. So I've been cruising. Every now and then I go into the Ecoflow groups and I saw a post where somebody told this guy had basically been using his Delta. I don't know if it was the Pro or whatever it was, for like 3 months as a UPS. And then when his power went out on him, he had no battery. It wasn't charged. And he said that he asked Ecoflow and the group, he like contacted Ecoflow and the guy who was talking to him, I think it was Steve Vanderman, I believe, who's like a moderator or an admin in the group. The group is called, I'm just saying the group. They have two groups. They have the Ecoflow River Series official group, and then they have the Ecoflow Club. This is the Ecoflow Club, official club. And then you have the Ecoflow River Series official group. Now, that particular post, the guy said, he answered him and he said, well, yeah, you've been running it for months. Why would you expect it to, I'm paraphrasing, why would you expect it to keep working after months? And I'm like, why wouldn't it? Am I tripping? Like you tell me this dip has like a UPS feature. Granted, it's not like a true UPS feature in terms of the millisecond. That's always a thing that people point out. But I just thought that was odd that you would tell somebody, yeah, you ran it for months on end. What do you expect? It's like, I expect the machine, if it has battery in it and it's bypassing the battery to pull power from the wall, for that battery to not be dead. Now, realistically, 3 months sitting around without your battery getting a charge, I kind of get that. Dead, not so much. I'm not a battery expert, but they typically tell you to make sure that you charge your device maybe every 6 months. Different manufacturers have different suggestions. So store it at about 50% and then make sure that you charge it or top it up or whatever you need to do as time goes on if you're going to leave the dip sitting in a closet anyway. I kind of likened it to that. So I was just trying to find a middle ground in the solution where it's like, okay, so maybe you put this dip in the UPS mode and maybe you set it to like 80%, right? That way, it's not necessarily full. And then maybe every like month or so, 8 weeks, whatever, 6 weeks, 5 weeks, you go in and you kind of pull it off and you allow that dip to actually charge up and discharge. You go through a cycle. But I thought that was really weird that that tone was kind of taken with him as if he had made a mistake by keeping the device doing what he expected it to do. I just thought that was weird. Let me see what y'all thoughts are on that, because that was pretty strange to me. Let's see. That's why I was saying we need a true UPS in these things. If it's not a real UPS, you can go through a lot of cycles. Shouldn't be dead within a year though, but reduce capacity. I could understand that. What's good, Silver Surfer? Good to see you, man. You should, and you will get one. Hey, I don't know what it is, but I believe you, and I'm co-signing that one. I wonder if I can reach out and ask them to give me a solar cable if they include them now. Somebody said they include them now. Maybe I missed it. Bluetti, they added back solar cable for the 3A. It's on their website, show included. Interesting. You said you wanted 1,000 watt hours with 1,800 watts. That's 1.8. I thought that's what you was getting at when I saw the 1.8. Yeah. Yeah, I do. You saying you wanted, your question up top was, do they, what's up with no regrets? Gensho? Gonna head out and drive home. I appreciate you hanging out, brother. Leela Presti, what's happening? Okay, back to, I wonder the cycle is based on. I wonder what their cycle is based on, solar charging or their super fast AC charging. At that speed, I wonder how many cycles you lose. Interesting. Okay, does any device do 1.8 capacity inversion? That's like a 30-minute device. So as it relates to the Delta 2, right? Keep in mind that I'm always thinking in terms of solar supplementing my power as well. So even though I'm using, and also a 1.8 or 1800 watt hour, 1800 watt device that's drawing that power, you don't run it for forever. Even my little old school air conditioner in this window only uses 1,000 watts. So if you got something that uses that much power, let it, I mean, microwave 1,500. A heater is a bad example, but you could run it. So if you got 400 watts coming in or whatever you have, then that's 600 watts. It's not actually 1,000 or whatever. So I'm okay with that. I'm always thinking about like what I can power while there's actually sun coming in, or what I can power from a device while also having another device putting power into it as well. It's always about supplementing that power that's going out with more power coming in, whether it's solar or it's 12 volt coming from another battery, or it's 12 volt coming from another power station, or, AC coming from another power station. Because even though I didn't understand the EB55 having the ability, because of its capacity to pull in solar and AC, the feature is still useful because, with these power stations being as efficient on DC and AC, it doesn't really matter where you pull the power from. So you can get more power from the AC inverter than you can from the 12-volt DC, which maxes out at about 100 and some odd watts, unless it's 24 volt, because volts times amps is watts. So you got 12 volts, 13, technically 13.5, 13.7 times the max amp of your 12-volt socket, which is typically about 10 amps, 8 amps. So you get about 122 watts, 110 watts. But on AC, you got 120 volts, 110 volts times however many amps. So you could ball out and power dump into a power station a lot quicker using that method. So it's always about supplementing the power as I'm pulling out the load, having multiple power stations, even some of these smaller power stations. Remember, I started out with the Bowdens, I had the Rock Pals, and then I got the EcoFlow. I had 3 power stations from Go. So I've always been thinking about that. EcoFlow had the more powerful inverter. So how can I get the power from the Bowdens and the Rock Pals into the EcoFlow if push came to shove? Because they all would have had some capacity or some capability to get solar input into them. So even if I took my 2 Renogy panels from back in the day and had them going into the EcoFlow, the Bowden still had its 50-watt panel, which was my original panel. Then I also had like an HQST panel or 2, which could go into the Rock Pals. So I'm always thinking about how can I get these devices that I have to work together when the lights go off or when power is needed. So that's kind of like my swag. Talked about that. Fine at this end. That's what's up. That's good to hear. Thanks for the update, man. You definitely need to work out the bugs on it before putting out other larger models mirrored after the EB3A. I imagine that's what Jason Noy is talking about. Boom, boom, boom. It's still the EB240 for me, best bang for the buck. Yeah, Wayne loves that EB240. That capacity on it is great. That thing is a workhorse. The whole series, everybody who I know that has the EB series, the 150 or the 240, they still use it to this day. Will uses his, Hobotech uses his. I don't know if they still do now, but in the last like year or so, they were still kind of like, yeah, thing still works. Element Van Life had gave his 150 or his 240 away because Bluetti sent him the AC200P, and he noticed that the AC draw on the inverter was a lot higher than what he had before. So he was losing a bit of power by having that device instead of his other device. So it was an interesting little situation. I can't get behind the EB240 because the tech is just too old. I have an EB120, but I bought it with that in mind, and it only cost me, I think it was like $699 or something like that. It may have even been a little bit cheaper. But that 1,000-watt inverter was appealing to me. It wasn't the best, but it was better than what I had. And I didn't like the fact that it had those 4 super slow USB ports. I don't like the fact that it didn't charge from 12 volt. I don't like the fact that it only charges one port, because if that port breaks, then you out of luck. The 45-watt USB-C power delivery port, that's a relic. I mean, I need at least 60, and I'm not even crazy about 60, to be honest with you. Hundo is the way to go. Let's see. Nothing much, man. I'm just hanging out. I have not pulled the trigger on the EB3A yet. I'm seeing in the comments the UPS is bugging out. Yeah, I don't use the UPS a lot, if at all, because I don't charge from the wall. That's not my thing. Now, it's not necessarily as convenient as the EcoFlow's UPS feature. So here's the thing. I think Jason always said that the base model didn't have UPS, but do any of the EcoFlow joints have UPS? I don't know. I don't think that they do. If they don't, that would suck. Because the thing that I liked about that power station was the fact that it had the UPS. And this feature that I would like them to improve upon or to put into their power stations, along with the UPS, would be a good look. And I just have to leave it there. You're going to have to wait for me to put the video out. Dang it, no notification again. Hope you're well. Now, okay, you're not getting notified. Are you getting notified, Grand Acres, from any channel? You may have to go in and look at your notification settings to make sure that you have mine set to probably all instead of some or something like that. I don't know. I don't use notifications really. That's not my joint. That's pretty cheap. It sounds like they're leaning in on the AC input. Interesting. Bluetooth sent me the cable without me asking. Bluetti. Okay. I really hate autocorrect. Yeah, it gets the best of me. It gets the best of a lot of us. R600 Pro and the EF1500 are unicorns. I don't even know what the EF1500 is. We may have talked about that like once. Okay, talked about that. I feel like I need Bluetti to send me my cable. I bought 2 of those cables because they were $10. But if y'all giving away cables, I want mine because you can never have too many MC4 cables, right? Hey, I can. What's happening? All right. Let me get to those comments in a second. I want to talk about some of these posts that I came across. Just to open it up for chat, dialogue, and all that jazz. I guess I could do that. That'd be a little bit better. Maybe, maybe not. We'll do that. I saw some interesting joints. We talked about this. All right. Steve Vanderman, he's a moderator. You see, that's the guy I mentioned earlier. It says, while the River 2 is tiny and less than 8 pounds, the River 2 Max and the River Pro are very similar. The River 2 Pro is 4 pounds heavier, has 50% more capacity, and the inverter is 300 watts bigger. Other than that, in appearance, location of the AC outlets, they seem to be the same machine. Interesting. So here's a few pictures that he took. So you can see that that dip is upside down. That just, man, that makes me feel away. It's like I was in this group and somebody, Max Oak, their website is like maxoak.net. And it's like, man, no matter how hard I try, I remember people saying that .net didn't look as polished because back in the day, right? 90s. If you had a .net, it was hard to take you seriously because it mean you didn't have the foreknowledge to get the .com. So if you got the .net, it was because you couldn't get the .com. And so I feel like I'm the way when I see a .net. I know that that's not necessarily fair to those companies. The internet is a wonderful place, a booming place, but it just is what it is. When I see an upside down outlet, I think about Rock Pals and Chiffon, the Wackery, the Whack Factory. I just think about cheaper devices that have to do that. Okay, then you got this one. Oh, it's sideways. This is my first time looking at this picture. Oh, the EcoFlow base one doesn't have 5521 on it. That's interesting. The base model has no barrel ports on it. I don't like that Jackery 300 for that reason. That's one thing that I miss on there, a power station that doesn't have a 5521 port, because I use those ports. I have these male-to-male cables. Let me see. Let's touch here. Shift 1. I have these 5521 male-to-male cables. I'm actually working on something that's very interesting. I'll tell you about it in a second. But this particular 12-volt adapter, I don't use these dips, but they're cool. You could put them in a 5521 port, and then you give yourself another 12-volt socket rated at whatever that port is rated at. So I have not, just to tell you about this particular project, just a quick deviation. I have not had great sun the last couple of days, but I still get pretty decent solar output because I have 400 watt arrays. I have 2 400 watt arrays, and I have one 320, and then I have one 300 watt array. I'll be putting out something soon about that, so you guys can kind of see what's going on there. Actually, I'm also about to put out a video on Patreon, where I just kind of like, it's kind of like my solar panel musical chairs, just for updating people who, it's like the whole thing that I went through. Not necessarily doing it, but this progression of, okay, this is going here, this is going here. Oh, you know what? I could do this here. I could do that there. If you follow me on Patreon, or if you support me on Patreon, then there was a video I did about thinking about what I want to do with all of these panels. This video is kind of like how I went about doing it. You got a little slice of that in the Bluetti EB180, Bluetti EB, in the Boujarvi 180 watt panel, where I was talking about putting it in series with the 190 HQST. So that's a whole thing. I'm going to put that video out on Patreon soon. I'm still editing it, so it's not completely like just ridiculously long and stuff like that. But what I was saying about the male to male cables is I didn't have a whole lot of solar over the last few days, but I still get decent solar input. Like if it's bright and overcast outside on those 400-watt arrays, I can get close to 100 watts in on them. My deep freezer and my refrigerator outside of the surge, they use about 100 watts. So I'm stoked at that. Like that's dope. That even on an overcast day, my refrigerator, my mini fridge is still going to be cool, and my deep freezer is still going to be cool if push comes to shove. But I needed power for this live to power all of this stuff over here because the stuff always runs off of solar. It's very rarely plugged into the wall, rarely. So I needed to power dump into a power station. And it turns out the Big Blue was kind of like the best power station to power dump into. The Bull Bat is good too. If you saw my power dump video where I was talking about triple charging it, that's why that dip is good. So what I had to do was I took it down there. I had 60 watts, 50 watts for about a total of 170 some odd watts going into it. That's what's powering this live right now because my EB70, it doesn't get full if, you know what I mean, just it didn't have enough power. And I use it all the time because this area is always getting hammered with, you know, what I'm using for work and being productive and all of that jazz. So I was looking at trying to figure out a situation to easily dual charge the OOPS because the OOPS supports dual charging and my Jackery supports dual charging, but it's via USB-C and 8mm. So what I was trying to figure out, I was like, well, because I was talking to Nathan. I was asking him because he won the Greasel T300. I was asking him, hey, do you need the 12-volt to 8mm cable? Because if you don't need it, if you happen to have another one and you're like, nah, I'm cool, I just need a device, then I could use it because this particular joint that I have right here, I talked about it before. The spring in it is like gone. Somebody said I could put another spring in there, but I don't got time to be messing around with that. I did pull it apart to see what it looked like, and I kind of get what they're talking about, but it's a whole thing. I think I gave away my EB70 joint to whoever I gave the chiffon, the wackery to. Anyway, long story long, the Big Blue and the Bull Bat having those bidirectional USB-C ports, my Alcatel and my Ace Vault having non-bidirectional USB-C ports are perfect for charging those devices. It would be better if I had devices that had dual USB-C bidirectional ports on them at 100 watts. That would be dope, but let's not get distracted here. So I was like, how can I easily charge this dip up? So what I did was I went 5521 to 8mm after I adapted it. I don't have it. It's actually downstairs in the basement right now. So I could charge this very easily. Actually, I'm lying. What I actually did is I have a USB-C to 5521 cable. It does the same thing that this does. Let me see if I can show you that. Can you see in there? That is a USB-C port to 5521. I adapted the cable that does this same thing. So it has a male USB-C on this side. It's an actual wire that has 5521. And then I put an adapter onto it to go to 8mm. So now I have turned the OOPS and the Jackery. If I want to, I can adapt to 8mm from USB-C. So I can have two USB-C cables going out, charging one via USB-C on the OOPS, one via 8mm on the OOPS, one via USB-C. I'm gonna stop there. I can dual charge the OOPS from another power station, and I think that that's dope because I don't have a whole bunch of working 12-volt to 8mm cables. I think the only one that I have that is actually good is the Jackery. Now, to deviate even more, I do have a bunch of GoLabs 12-volt to 5521 cables that I could adapt to 8mm, but sometimes they don't work or maybe I'm tripping, so I won't go down that path. The Jackery is the same thing. I could use it the same way because it charges over 8mm and it can charge over USB-C. It worked on the Oops. Now, I don't know if that's reliable or not, but it did work. I was excited about that. To try and charge a 500 watt hour device at 60 watts, to try and charge it at 80 watts, it takes a long time. But 80 and 60, I could live with that. Just a little bit, around 4 hours. That dip could be full and ready to go, which is very important for me because as I continue to use my power stations, I'm trying to get into a space where I'm powering more things from them. And if you remember, if you've been around for the last like 2 or 3 lives, I was talking about powering my kid's fan. I actually did a short about it. The Oops was pretty much fully charged. The fan ran all night at about like 30 watts or something like that. And at the end of the night, I still had 30% left. So what I'm trying to figure out, and I'm constantly adjusting and moving and shaking and figuring out how to make this stuff be a cohesive, get confluence basically, or confluence. I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm trying to make it so that these power stations have power in them when I need them, so that I'm not basically basement heavy with my power, because most of my solar goes into my power. And most of my solar that's up here goes to zones that get used throughout the day. Because remember, my priority is to use the solar power. My priority is not to save it. I've gotten to a point where I can save some of it now because I have bigger power stations. But if you keep in mind why I got that EcoFlow River, it was like to get that 180, 160 watts in and to use it. It was only a 300 watt hour device. So you're not storing much of anything. The dip is full in a flash. It's the same thing that goes for that EB3A, the same thing that goes for that EcoFlow River. Only the new EcoFlow River. The only downside of that one is it doesn't charge at 200 watts. So it's like it becomes like a normal power station. It's not a superhero power station like the original OG River base model was. All right, that was a lot. Jeez. Listen, man, my solar brain is like I feel like it's complex. And I know a lot of people feel like, dude, you be doing too much, but it is what it is. I do too much and I love doing it. You know what I mean? Some instances of it becomes a little more work. I was just thinking today, like I could absolutely just get up and like work on like solar stuff and figuring this stuff out and making it work together better and coming up with more cohesive combinations and stuff like that to make this stuff work. You compare that to some people, they buy a power station and they put it in the closet, which is terrible. Or they buy a power station and they like the fact that it's full at 11 a.m. I'm not that person. I'm not. I want all the power and I want to use it. So I'm always trying to find balance between how much power is coming in and how much power is coming out. All right, I said a lot. Let's go back to this. So this is the base model. And actually, okay, he does have all three. I don't know if I can show you any better than that because it's not zoomed in. Actually, if I just pull it over, maybe I'll pull it over and just zoom it in. And then I'll bring it back to the shareable screen. That's not touch screen. All right, base, on off button. That's another thing I don't like about the EcoFlow. The EcoFlow River series, because I think the new Delta 2 has a button for USB-C. And some other ones that I don't pay close attention to may have a button to turn on the USB ports as well. But it's like convenient at times that it's always on, and then sometimes it's inconvenient that the USB-C ports are always on. For example, I have a situation where my EcoFlow River basically powers my EB3A. No, my Energizer P320. It powers that one, so that one can power the internet. The logic behind that is both of those devices are about 300 watt hours. My internet uses about 20 watts. That's not enough to maintain it throughout the whole day, definitely not 24 hours. So the EcoFlow not being on the internet basically allows it to act as a buffer. So it's putting power into the Energizer, and then at the end of the day, once that power is dead, let's say the EcoFlow dies at about 8, then my internet doesn't turn off because I still have 300 watt hours in here to be able to use. Let me make that a little more practical. My Energizer runs my internet for like 10 hours, 11 hours. That's why I've always been harping on the fact that I need about 500 watt hours at minimum in that zone. And I thought I accomplished that by getting the River Max with the extra battery through the help of one of my viewers. But then it was still acting like a 300 watt hour capacity device. So I was essentially in the same situation, even though I thought I had more power. And it was taking in all of that solar. So even though it only stored about 300 watt hours of battery, it was taking in 500 watt hours or whatever it is, 576 or 583 or whatever it is. I don't know. So it's an interesting situation. So I have that river over there to act as a buffer to dump into the Energizer P320, which runs the internet. So I like that separation. But what it does is it's plugged in via USB-C because the Energizer, the EcoFlow, is not bi-directional. So I don't have to worry about confusion. So it takes that 100 watts, dumps it constantly into the EB3A. But it'll do it until it dies. And then when it starts to get enough power, it just starts charging it again. That's cool, but it keeps my EcoFlow dead, which is fine. I'm cool with that. But depending on the situation, you may not want that. You know what I mean? You may not be into that. I think it would be nice if you could set these EcoFlow devices to not go below a certain percentage, because you can set them to not go above a certain percentage, but they will go down to 0 if you don't monitor it. So it'd be cool if I could say, hey, don't go below 20%, turn everything off. But I can't. So that's an interesting thing. But I back to these devices look like they operate in much the same way. There's no physical button to turn the USB on or off. If it has power, those joints are lit. They're hot, coming in hot. All right, that's the middle one. Nobody has said, I haven't seen specs on these ports, these USB ports. I hope they're quick charges, because on the OG River, only one of them's quick charge. The other two are just 2.4 amps. And then you got your AC on and off button. So that's an interesting difference. These are sideways. One has the little, these two have the holes. And then on this one, these are all vertical. Both of those have those pros and cons, because if you have a wall wart, basically something that plugs into the wall and is bigger than the it's bigger than the outlet itself. So it would be like a brick like this that plugs right into the outlet, versus having something like this that plugs into the outlet and the actual wart itself is separated. What you would essentially have, I'm sure you guys have seen these before, basically something like this. Like this dip goes into the wall and it protrudes. A lot of power stations, and there's longer ones than this, I'm sure you've seen them. A lot of power stations have their outlets very close to the ground. So that's problematic. Or the outlet that you need, which is the one that has the 3-hole, it's the one that's closer to the ground. I love when power stations do the shared hole for just like, it doesn't do anything, but the hole is there, because then you can turn your dip upside down and still get power. It'll block the whole outlet, the other outlet, but at least you don't have your wire hanging close to the ground so that it causes the wire to possibly get a short in it, because it ends up getting bent. Don't do that to your cables. I'm a child of Super Nintendo and Nintendo. People wrapping their cords up too tight, and then you have a problem where your controller don't work because those wires were so thin, they got frayed, and then you got to shorten your wires. So I wrap stuff up with a little give. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Let's say with this right here, instead of pulling this down like that, like some people do, which is ridiculous, I give it a little loop, and then I'll start wrapping it up like, whatever. That's how I do that. I guess it's better to pull that out and then show you on this side. So instead of pulling that thing all the way down, even though it has that little guard right there, I give it a little loop, and then I start wrapping it around. And that helps to maintain better wire health, because you don't have any hard angles in your cable. So some power stations, they have the outlets where the outlets are very close to the ground. and it can cause a problem with wall warts that are like flat and go in and hang down. Think about like those air fresheners or like a little surge protector that plugs directly into a wall. Hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about. The last time I mentioned it, somebody was like, what's a wall wart? So interesting. I did see the back of this device via this video that I have a tab open that I'll try and show you. I think it's this one. Yeah, so you can see the back of the device here. That's the XT60, I'm going to assume. And then his hand is covering the AC joint, you know, no power bricks on these EcoFlows. They ain't got time for that. Okay, so it's getting a little. So that's kind of what the handle looks back there, which is interesting. It's an interesting little approach, man. I don't know if I'm actually gonna get one, but I'd like to put my hands on it. But you know, it don't always work out for your boy, at least at this stage in my channel. This is another picture that was posted in the group that I thought was interesting. Just see what it looks like. Looks like it has some air intake vents down here, and you saw that big old fan on this side at the back. So that's probably how the airflow works. I don't know what this is. This is something I just randomly wanted to read. Oh, I was trying to find these posts when I was doing that. What else we got here? This is another one, just generic joint. And the dip is launching on the 25th. So they have a countdown on their website. I could put the website down in the chat in a second. I mean, in the description of the video. Those are just some of the things that they highlight on here. Interesting little devices, man. It's definitely a step forward for the most part. The base model is a step backwards, 100%. But I wonder how the competition is going to respond to these prices, because EcoFlow, I don't know if you remember, but back when coins were really tight, the EcoFlow Kickstarters were very appealing because the stuff was priced very affordably. So that dip, the EcoFlow R600 and the EcoFlow R600 Pro, and you know, those dips were very affordably priced on the Kickstarter. People who bought those, they made out pretty good in terms of price per watt. I think it was somewhere around 50 cents a watt or 60 cents a watt. I know Wayne jumped on those Kickstarters, so he may remember. But these things are priced nicely. They're not overly expensive. The point I was trying to make is a lot of times EcoFlow devices, EcoFlow's start was to have very expensive devices, which is why when those new River devices came out and they could be hooked together in tandem and combined with the X boost and all of that jazz, I was like, man, I was compelled. But I didn't have the coins to be able to take advantage of it. But they've had some really expensive devices. These devices are they're priced decently. So I wonder how people are going to respond. Their only downside lately has been that they didn't have LifePO in them. Jackery's challenge is the same. People love those devices, but they don't have LifePO in them. 800 cycles, no LifePO. You know what I mean? So it's like you're not going to have to make that sacrifice now. I don't know how the industry is going to respond. I don't know what these one-off power station makers are going to do. I don't know how battery chemistry is going to play into the cost of these devices, and not battery chemistry, the battery components and their availability is going to play into this. I'm not sure where this is going to go, but it seems to be going in a good direction. Let me see what y'all snapping and trapping about. So I want 1800, whatever RMS means. I'm not the savviest guy with these electrical terms. Surge is fine, but RMS is harder since very few of those have the AC input to handle full RMS long. You're gonna have to explain what that means to me, and I'm sorry that I got to this so late because the comment's gonna be way down at the bottom. UPS mode just doesn't matter that much to me. If I'm running a PC, it'd be a laptop. Facts. What else needs to be running without an interruption? Maybe some medical equipment or something like that. But it's funny that people have to dig up these old devices to show you that the UPS works. Now, the only benefit, I don't know how to make a video about this, but I did talk about it before. The only benefit of UPS in a power station for me is that it's not really eating into your battery. You may have something that you don't want to turn off, but it's like I was saying one time, it's like people were talking about these UPS features as if it was like something that a normal power station can't do. Sure, a normal power station can't bypass your battery, but if you have a power station without UPS and something is plugged into it and your power goes out and that power station is no longer getting power from the wall, it's just going to keep working. And I'm just like, why are y'all talking about this like this is magical? Other power stations will do the same thing. This is not a secret feature of UPS to keep powering the device when the electricity goes out. And I couldn't understand what the big deal was, but all power stations do that as long as they can charge from the wall. Now, granted, you are taxing your battery. That's why I feel like UPS and these power stations, the only real benefit is the fact that it's passing through power. You may have a 1%, 2%, 10%, 15% of people who have something that actually needs to keep running and it needs to be kind of like that. But yeah, you ever plug into your fridge is going to keep going. Power comes back on, your power station is going to start charging. Instead of it being at 100% the whole time, it's going to drop down to 80% and it's going to charge back up to 90. And then it's going to like, it's pulling 40 watts, 100 watts. And it's charging back up 100 watts. So it's a little small slight cycle, as Settype was pointing out. I don't get it. Whatever. It's magical according to some people. Charging and discharging like that for too long is going to create a lot of heat. Okay, that's why they have fans. I mean, I can't nitpick. It's like if I need power and I'm charging and discharging for a certain period of time, it just is what it is. You are not missing something, Eddie T. I think that they were mixing up two issues. Speed of UPS switchover is separate from real versus fake. Real skips the battery and passes grid through. Fake runs the battery inverter 100%. That's interesting. I can't even stop there. I got the Delta Pro 10 200-watt panels and the Delta 2 200-watt panels. Now my electricity bill is $10 or less. Jeez, man, the people coming for you. They're like, what is this dude doing? What is he doing? Can charge my Prius Prime to full every day. That's interesting, man. That's nice, man. I would love to see a video of your setup. If you could do something like that, upload it to YouTube, unlist it. If you got a Gmail account, you can easily have a YouTube account. I think they actually require you to have a YouTube account. They require you to have a YouTube channel just to comment on YouTube videos. I think that that's silly, but whatever. I remember one of my other accounts never did YouTube on it. And then I tried to do a comment and they were like, yeah, you need to create a YouTube account, a YouTube channel or something like that. That's what I remember. I'm getting old. But that's what I remember happening. It's a weird thing. But I'd like to see your setup, Jake. That'd be cool to see. 10 200-watt panels. Interesting. Oh, okay, I understand a good UPS, blah, 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 blah. The UPS was the only reason I was willing to buy such a small battery EB3A, so I'm super disappointed that I have no use case for it now. Did it like legit stop working? Like, do you need to contact them to get another one or something like that? Y'all, let me tell y'all something. I'm going to keep it light on the informational side, but the EB70, which was my fourth power station that I purchased. I worked with Bluetti on that one. They gave me a discount. And I had my little string of videos as it relates to it. I felt like I got in Bluetti's bad graces because of some of the content that I made, which sucks, but it is what it is. Now, I will say that I had a buyer beware EB70 video. And it was just a buyer beware. And it was more so like they talked a good game with this. It's still a dope device, but they didn't deliver on the things they promised. They were talking about it was like a 700-watt inverter that could surge up to 1400 watts. In my testing, it didn't get past 800. Setite's testing before I even knew him. He was having the same issue, and he was having even a more egregious issue with his joint, which I think he ended up getting it replaced. So maybe they didn't like that video, but somebody reached out to me, and then they kind of had to recant without getting into all of the stuff. But they were like, "Yeah, there's blah blah blah. The stuff is maybe the channel." I don't know how to explain it without like putting their business on Front Street. I think basically the guy or the person saw the channel, was like, cool, that'd be nice to work with them. And then it was like, I can't help but knowing that he may have gone to somebody in his company, and maybe that person was like, yeah, we cool off him. The guy, he was like, I have to get back to you. Got back to me. It was a really cool exchange. He delivered the information in one of the nicest ways possible. But I don't know what it is about my channel, but they kind of chalked it up to statistical stuff. But so I'm still not quite in Bluetti's good graces, but at least somebody reached out to me. Whereas like it had been radio silence for the longest time. There's even a channel that is smaller than mine that is still in their good graces. So what am I supposed to deduce from that? You know what I mean? I feel like they must not have liked something that I did, which is cool. Now I do recognize that they may have, because there's this fine line that I have to walk. And I was talking with Wayne about this because I think he saw one of my videos and he was like, man, that video was harsh. Or maybe the thumbnail was harsh or something like that. And he was just saying like, yeah, you kind of don't want to go about it like that. Now, it's not that I want to soft pedal information for the sake of the company. I want to be very clear about that. But there is a fine line between making a video and collaborating with a company, which is something I talked to my wife about. Because it's like, hey, this thing is having an issue. What do you think about this? Now, there's also another fine line between things that a company can change and improve and things that are just explicitly issues with the product. You know what I mean? It's like this thing, the EcoFlow River 2 charges at 110 watts. That's not all that impressive compared to what it was before. They can't do anything about that. That's how they designed the device. But to come out and say, yo, this particular thing, if it was sent to me early, it has an issue, and I make the video saying that it has this issue, basically kind of like speaking negatively about the company, even though I'm within the range of testing and stuff like that, then that's kind of like inappropriate in terms of like the goal. And as Wayne said it, he was like, the goal is to help out both the company make better products and help users get better products. So you're kind of working on behalf of both people in some capacity, more aligned with the people who are spending the money to buy the products. But you still want the goal is for the company to make something that's good, that is worthy of someone buying. So I wonder if I say all that to say that early on, that buyer beware video may have taken an angle that may not have been fair to them in some capacity. I don't remember. I'd have to watch it again. But I do think that it was an accurate take on their product, because it wasn't something that they could address or fix. It was just how the product was made. You know what I mean? It's like it won't go over 700 watts of AC output. You know what I mean? It is what it is. There's nothing we could do about that. So you can't change that. It's like, that's not great. Y'all sold us this device saying it could surge up to 1400 watts. And I have actual devices that would surge up to like 1,000 or something like that, maybe a little higher, but it will not go past 800. And I think they said it was like they didn't say it was an 800 watt inverter. They said the second one is an 800 watt inverter, I believe, the 70S. So maybe I'll be able to work with Bluetti in the future. The door is not closed based on that one transaction, but how I took it is basically my contact never responded back to me. So I felt like they were done working, and it's their prerogative. They have their right to like not like, Ask God Solar's videos, not like his particular brand of whatever, or not like how that video came out. And they don't want to work with me anymore. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? It's all good. But somebody reached out to me and that was cool. And the person who I talked to before still works there. So that leads me to believe that something happened where they were not a fan of it. Again, there's another channel who they seem to still be working with, and that channel is like 5 times smaller than mine. What would you pull from that, right? Let's see. Looks like the GooLoo GB. Okay, reason I keep watching is you are real. Most YouTubers, they are afraid to talk about anything negative or question their problems. Keep up the great work. I appreciate that. I actually had a post today looking for some feedback from you guys to see what you thought I could improve upon with the channel. Because, I mean, not everybody's critique is useful, but there are some critiques that are useful. You know what I mean? So it just is what it is. Like one guy, he said, like this video right here, he probably won't watch. I don't know if he was like a main viewer or anything like that, but he didn't like one of my videos because I didn't own the products. And I was like, well, that's interesting. I don't agree with that perspective, but that was his take. And, you know, he's just fine to make it. What's up, Sleeper? Let's see. Let's work my way backwards. Jesper portable charger on Amazon for $169 with a $35 coupon. Now it's interesting. The interesting thing about the GooLoo, right? Which is this device right here. It's essentially a power station. It's not quite a solar power station, even though you could charge it from solar with only a USB-C enabled panel. So if you have a panel, let's say you have a 100 watt panel and it has a legit 60 watt PD port on it, then you could charge this from solar. I don't know many panels that have a legit 60 watt. I mean, none I've come across. I'm not necessarily in the portable panel market all the time, but it's a nice device. Now you look at how much it costs for the 300 watt hours and you start comparing that to some other power stations, then you may not necessarily feel like this is a good look. And I respect that. I understand that completely, but it has to do with your particular use case and what you want to use it for. Like somebody was saying that they wanted to travel with it in the chat. So it's an interesting little device. I like it. I'm very fond of it. Very fond. Let's see. Integrity is important to so many of us, and that is what you are all about. I appreciate that, Kyle Dog Connoisseur. Do you have a link for that GooLoo? Sure. I don't have one on hand, but I can get one. Absolutely. Yeah, it's fine. That's why I was because that AC300 video that Jason Noy did back when I did a live stream on that, and I was like, man, I gotta get to like 10,000 subscribers so they respect me. So maybe I can start getting these bigger power stations. GooLoo GT X280, I believe is what it is. There's 2 of them, Sharon. There's a yellow one and a red one, and the price seems to be like kind of all over the place. Like this particular one is $190 with a $20 coupon, and then there's the red one that is $225 with a $40 coupon. So one of them was markedly cheaper than the other one time when I looked at it. And it seemed to be only about the color. So that's the GooLoo. If it has no PWM or MPPT, I wouldn't consider it solar. I dig that. That's a fair point. I don't know what it has. I have to look at the specs and I can't get caught up into it now. Dude, it's freaking Montech. I emailed Montech the info. Sharon gave me the email address. Oh, this is the wrong one. Where's the Montech page? This is the StreamYard. Let me pull this up. Montech has a new power station coming out, an updated one. Dang, this is the old one too. Where's the new one? Let me see. 2000. This is the Kickstarter. This is a preview. It's not. I don't think it's live yet. I feel like people could still possibly no, they can't play. It just says 0%. Dang, where did I see that at? Montech has a new power station. This is the power station that's waterproof. I emailed them at the info joint to see if I could possibly get the older version of it because I'd like to check it out. I was a little questionable on the build quality, not the quality of it, but just the look. Yeah, it looked like some of the little things were just kind of like machined, the holes were a little machined out, and it just felt it felt a little interesting to me. But, planes on a snake. But yeah, I'm still trying to get to 10,000 because I feel like these people still value subscriber count. That's a whole different thing, but I ain't gonna get into that. So you'll have these people with these large subscriber bases and I could possibly make a video that gets more views than that person does. So it's interesting because you get into a situation where, yeah, you got those views and yeah, you might get more sales. I understand it's a numbers game because people buy stuff based off of the strength of creators. Y'all know I don't necessarily push products on you guys unless it's like something that I'm really impressed with and I feel like it would be a good fit. My thing is like to tell you about the product, and I hope that your analytical brain would kick in and then you weigh the factors because that's what this is about here. I'm trying to inform and educate and share my knowledge, which is not necessarily vast, but I know more than a lot of people who watch some of this stuff. And then I want to inform your perspective because that's what I do. I inform my perspective and then I try to choose appropriately. I analyze and I'm like, okay, well, this boom, 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 boom. What would I do here? Like the EcoFlow, the EB3A versus the EcoFlow River 2. I feel like the EB3A is the better buy. I don't know. Outside of size, I can't see the EcoFlow being the one that most people would choose. Outside of like people who are just like, yeah, I'm team EcoFlow. So yeah. It didn't break. It just shut off after a few days of running my router. It worked again when I manually turned it on. But since power didn't even go out, I can't trust it to run my stuff. That's interesting. That sounds exactly like the situation that happened with the dude's EcoFlow Delta. It's like, yeah, it was running all that time. And you say you have UPS and you say you bypass the battery and then the battery's dead. So what gives? I guess to be realistic, I guess it no, because it's plugged into the wall. I was gonna say maybe it takes power from the battery to do the UPS mode, but it's plugged into the freaking wall. Take the power from the wall, fam. That's the whole point. Anywho. Oh man, I was arguing against UPS again. We have talked about cycles wasted, but I think where we arrived is even if the cycles are wasted, it's like a percentage of a cycle. I wish I could get like a definitive take on that from some engineer. Maybe I have to jump on, but I'm sure there'll be a difference of opinion. I was saying maybe I need to jump on Will Process Solar Forum to see what those guys have to say about cycles. I don't fully understand cycles. Me and sat and we chopped it up for a good bit to try and kind of figure it out, but I'm not sure on it. I still I have so much to learn. I feel like I didn't miss much. Did I? If I missed anybody's comment or question, if you had a question, please let me know. I'm way behind on the live. Okay, 2x, man. If you're behind on the live, 2x. I love 2x in videos, especially live streams. Okay, I did miss some comments. Grace and Hardy, what's happening? Any idea when the Bluetti might make an EB5A or EB7A? The EB3A is cool, it's just too small. Listen, that's what we were kind of talking about earlier. The UPS possibly having issues and they want to work those bugs out, Jason was saying, before they bring it to other power stations. I think they need to. I think they need to start. That EB55 has some interesting features, but the way that they handled it, I was just like, man, you kind of didn't get it right. You could have got it. You could have did it a little bit better, but I don't know. I haven't heard anything. What happened? My feelings almost got hurt. What did I miss, Kimber Jack? That's interesting. 501 and 301 are also different from each other. Okay, I bought the Alcatel P2001 when it was on flash sale and got the P501 and P301 free. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are very different. The 301 and 501 are odd size barrel plugs. That's when I talk about confluence and getting a rhythm in my power stations and how things work. Those odd barrel connectors, they mess up everything. I was talking to my wife about, and I mentioned it here too. I thought about, do I want to start getting rid of a power station or two before I get something to replace it? And I don't know because I use them. I am about done with the Alcatel. The Alcatel is just sitting over there. I'm ready to get that one up because the only way that I thought I had found hope when I discovered that it uses this green connector to charge. So I was able to charge it from solar, and it's actually rated to charge at like 125. So it was an interesting little device to have. But the connection on it it was so loose that I would go to it and it wouldn't be charging anymore. And I had to kind of like play with the joint. But the adapter, the power brick that it comes with fits in snug and it makes a good connection and it charges at 125 watts. So it's a good little power dump, but it has a weird barrel connector. It doesn't have USB-C bi-directional joint, so I can't charge it that way. It did not come with a 12-volt adapter, so I can't charge it that way. I wouldn't even really want to be bothered with that, but it's a one-trick pony, and that's not worth it for me, especially when I got the Bull Bat and Big Blue that I could charge via USB-C ×2. They both have input bi-directional joints, and you could charge via 5525, and they use 5525. I can easily adapt 5521 to 5525 easily. I got a joint right here for 25. But that joint, that green tip, it was cool to have it. I was happy to use it. I threw it on a 200-watt solar panel when I was kind of like starving for nice power stations before I got like the Alcatel and the Ace Volt. So I had these 200-watt panels, and it was like, okay, well, I'll let it throw 125 into the Alcatel, and it stopped working on me. So I'm this close to giving that one away. Stay tuned to the live streams in the future, or I'll figure out some kind of other way to give it away. I like the live streams because the people here are like interactive. It takes a special person to hang out on the live stream, but I also want to figure out ways to give stuff away to my other viewers because, you know, one viewer is not necessarily more valuable than the other. I appreciate all you guys. So yeah, I'll figure something out. I'll definitely figure something out. See what else we got here. Okay, yeah, you're talking about how I wanted to replace some of my lead acid UPS devices. I use it for things like modem, routers, NAS. Those lead acid batteries die on me every year or so, making them useless. I dig it. Yeah, it's definitely, I get it. I understand. UPS is definitely the way to go if you want to power something. What's up, Joe Tyson? I saw your name while scrolling. Just lurking and working in the background. I appreciate the comment, man. It's always good to see you. Have a big AWS deployment coming out for work. I hear you. Listen, I dig it. Not my speed, but I thought about it. My cousin was talking to me about AWS and how there's like these opportunities to, you know, make good money and all that jazz. But I'm not a super technical person. Yeah, I'm not that guy. The Monte, is that your autocorrect doing that? Monte or Monte? The Monte is not live. He's looking at December to launch on Indiegogo. That's funny that you have that kind of like connection and how you speak about the guy. Let him know that I emailed him. Monte. Monte, sorry, I got you. The Monte looked interesting. Yeah, it looks good. I was looking at the screenshot and I was like, man, that just looks good. That black, those cables look sturdy. They staged it pretty well there. I like the fact that it has two chemistry joints options. I guess I can try and find it so I can show you guys since I have the screen share set up. Jeez, come on, man. What are we doing here? Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do a search for Montech. I love the fact that I can interact as my page now in some of these groups. Which is dope to me. Okay. Here's some random pictures of just stuff, but it's not a picture of the device. Montech. Oh, it's from Montech itself. That's interesting. So let's pull that out so we can deal with that in a second. Sheesh. Where's the freaking post at? I can't find it. Y'all could, how about y'all just search along with me? How about that? Catch me outside. How about that? I know it's in this group called Solar Generator Free Talk. Let's just see if we can search for it. It's like every time I pull up this little MSN little page, it's either Biden on there or it's Trump or something like that. And I feel bad when I pull it up and people see Trump. It's just like, don't associate me with that dude. Let's see. Montech. What's it? The X1200. Well, that was useless. I quit. Moving on with my life. I'm about to waste y'all time trying to find it. But anyway, Montech has a new dip coming out. Oh yeah, I use a GooLoo GT something 1500 to jump my tractor since the batteries are dead. That's another thing that's appealing to me about that GooLoo is the fact that it could jump a car. I mentioned it before, but there have been some times where I wanted to. My battery has died on one of my vehicles, and my neighbors, two of my neighbors, are really into cars. And they're both cool guys, so we're all very neighborly with each other. So I just ask them to use this joint, and they'll come out and like pop it on and stuff like that, and I help them with like computer issues when they have them and stuff like that. So we got a nice little neighborly exchange going on. But now I have something where I could use it for that if I wanted to. So I thought that was cool when they was talking about sending it to me. You watch it too, Mr. Morrow. Yeah, it's a nice long one for you, man. Enjoy. We're going up on 2 hours now. Is the Jesper? It looks the same. It looks the same. What's interesting about the GooLoo is I like the fact that it's just like a super just capable battery in terms of its capacity. I have a bunch of these little batteries, and I'm always kind of looking for more at a budget price. I'll buy them like off of the marketplace and stuff like that. You gotta love supply and demand. It's like if nobody wants to buy it, if I could get it for cheap, then I'll take it for cheap. I love those little things. I got a couple of anchors. Most of them are all anchors, to be honest. I don't think I have anything but anchors outside of the one that was sent to me by the company recently. Actually, one company emailed me this morning. I thought it was for a power station, but it was for a battery bank. I'm not making no videos about battery banks. I'll talk about them on the live, and if y'all want to grab them, y'all can grab them. That's about the extent that I'm going to do. I'm not sabotaging my progress making a battery bank video on the solar channel. That's just bananas. Came to win. What's up, bro? Always good to see you, man. Always good to see you. That was a while ago when you were talking about putting power stations in the closet. Yeah, it's y'all. It's not even a lot of y'all in here, but sometimes the comments you got to catch up. I said this early on. Sometimes it's helpful if you make a comment. I'm no pressure or anything like that. Just let me know what it's in reference to, so that when I'm reading it, just say, hey, that's crazy regarding putting it in the closet. That would be helpful. So I kind of know what you're talking about. I just pulled my power station out of the closet and plugged it in to an electric outlet. I dig that. I don't know what you're saying at the end there, but I get it. I completely agree. I'm somewhat stuck. But remember that I somewhat had talked about that on another channel. I don't understand. I think they should be used every day, not stored away. Yeah. Some people just want the peace of mind. I get it. But the thing is, if you don't pull it out, you don't know that it works. I saw a couple Delta posts where people were like, yeah, I had 2 of them and they've just been in a closet and I lost power and I pulled them out and they were dead and couldn't be charged. And I'm like, ooh, that has to be the worst feeling, to have something that gives you peace of mind and only to grab it and find out I ain't got no battery charge in it. That's interesting to me that the Delta has those, and I've only seen a couple instances of it. I'm not saying it's rampant throughout the what do they call it? The grouping of the products. I don't know what the word is. The assembly line, the joints. But I've seen some people have said like, yeah, man, it don't work. It won't take a charge. And I'm like, man, that sucks. Jeez. I try to include context, but the 200 character limit is difficult. That's fair. That's certainly fair. I dig that. That's a fair point. Listen, let me give y'all an update on what I got going on. Man, I've been thinking about. So I had the Alcatel and the AceVolt. I always mention them together because they're pretty much the same device. They have a 50-volt limit, right? Which is problematic. It's hard. But your EcoFlows also have a 50-volt limit. The reason why that's problematic, is it fair to say it's problematic? Because at the end of the day, it's really just, it's so you can put two panels in series and then have a little room, a little cushion. So it's all perspective, I suppose. But there's such huge devices, and the max solar input they can have is 500 watts. Compare that to something like an AC200P, the max solar input on that is 700 watts. And you also have the fact that they built that DC optimizer, which you can add another 500 watts. Oh, excuse me. The AC200P is interesting. Y'all know I bought one. I bought it for a very low price, and it didn't work out for me. It's okay. It's okay. But there's a potential for me to possibly get one in a couple of months. And I'm very excited about that prospect, because what that would allow me to do, my AceVolt and my Alcatel have two panels, each going into each one of them. 200 watts, 200 watts, 200 watts, 200 watts. Technically 190, 190, 190, 180. They get about 250 watts. What I've been trying to do is consolidate my cables so I have less cables I'm messing around with. Y'all, I've had I would have let's just go off of the basement. Down in the basement, I would have the AceVolt charging from a set of panels or a panel, the Alcatel charging from a panel, the Oops charging from a panel, the Sateki 500 charging from a panel, the EB120 charging from a panel. That's 5 sets of cables. That's 10 wires coming into my garage just off top. I would also pull the Big Blue down there sometimes and put it on the panel, its own panel, because it has a flat cable that would go into my garage fairly easily. That's 6. I've had a bunch of cables running into there. So I had the EcoFlow was down there for a while running off of a panel as well. So I've had a bunch of like loose little panels. My thing is like, if the sun is banging, I'm trying to get the power. And I don't even maximize on it all the time, because some things are just inconvenient to put out. Like the X-Star and whatever power station I will put out, it's inconvenient because that cable is really thick. I'm not into leaving my power stations outside, only because sometimes I've got caught in the rain with them, which is why the Montec is interesting. That one would be a good outside deploy for me. I would love to put like a Renogy 320 on something like that, or maybe even just a 200 watt joint if I had something. I like that idea, and I wouldn't have to worry about the rain. That's pretty cool. So I consolidated a lot of those. Right now, all I have is 4 wires coming in, when sometimes I've had like 6 to 7 wires coming into my basement. And I'm talking about sets. I have 4 sets of wires coming in right now. I've been thinking about taking and trying to put that 800 watt joint in a series parallel connection and just having it come into the Alcatel, because the Alcatel is bigger. The AceVolt is a little more compact. I imagine they weigh about the same. I'll maybe weigh them one day. But I would have all of that power come into the Alcatel, and then the Alcatel could power dump into anything. It can go straight 1100 watts into the AceVolt, or it could charge any of my LifePO batteries. I have 3 at about 300 watts. It could charge 2 of them at 300 watts. I only have 2 chargers, so I could charge both of them at the same time. So basically, I would be able to take those 2 sets of panels that have 2 sets of cables coming into them, and I connect them all together with a series parallel connection and have all of that power. The only issue I have to figure out is how many amps are these panels producing when they're out in full sun. Because if it's more than 8 amps, which I don't believe it will be, I can't figure out how to do the math at the moment because I have 2 unknown variables. All I know is the watts coming in, and I'd have to assume the volts. So I think it's about 8 amps. The reason why I bring all that up is because both of those devices have a 15 amp limit. So I would be throwing away, let's just say they do produce 8 amps. The 15 amp limit would stop it at 15. So I'll lose about, let's say the voltage is like 30, 33, 31. I would lose about 30 watts just by putting it in a series parallel connection. So instead of, let's say each individual one was getting 250 watts apiece. This may not be good math, but just walk with me here. I could put them, let's say 260. 260 makes it a little bit better because you have the idea of possibly getting 520 watts of power versus 500, which is why I'm not really a fan of over paneling. I'd much rather have those panels go into separate power stations and actually get their own 250 or 260. That 10 watts is let's say 270 to make it more reasonable. I'd much rather both of them get 270 than one get 500, because then I'm losing out on 40 watts by putting that all into one power station. But for the sake of combining those cables, so I only have one cable coming in off of that single array, I think it would be interesting, and I thought about doing it. I don't know if I will do it, but I thought about it, which is why the video is going to be coming out on Patreon soon. It may even, I'm not going to put it on there tonight, maybe tomorrow, of me kind of just working through what I'm doing with my panels, talking about them, actually putting them there, and then giving you a couple like, okay, this is where I'm at now. And then it ultimately ends up in this is where I ended up. So you get to see the progress instead of the finished result, which is a lot of times what these YouTube videos are. They're like a little bit of the process, but mostly like, okay, this is what I did. So this is for like people who are into solar and they kind of want to see like the behind the scenes essentially. So I've been thinking about that. I already have done, and I'll have a video coming out about this soon. I recorded the video. I just need to edit it. The Patreon folks will get an early version of it because I appreciate them supporting your boy with coins. But I put my 3 Renogy panels in series, and that one's really like a kind of an educational one where I'm getting my voltmeter out and I'm measuring volts and I'm looking at it like, okay, this will work, boom, let's do it, put it together and profit. So I have those 3 panels in series, and then I want to be able to have all of those 190s in series going into one power station. If the AC200P does come through, that's what it'll go into. I'm gonna put all of those panels in series and have it all go into that power station. And then I don't know, let's see, realistically, I'll probably stop charging my batteries with a solar panel, and I'll put my MPPT charge controller away and just charge that from a power station. Now, I say that, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm weird in that I'll probably charge those batteries from like a 100 watt panel because I got panels just laying around. So I don't know if that'll necessarily work, but I would have a 4-panel array going into the AC200P. I would have a 300 panel array going into my EB140. And then I would have the Renogy, which is the 320 watt joint. It'll probably be going into the Ace Volt or the Alcatel, which would leave one of those joints out of charging. And then I'll probably bring one of those joints up to stairs to be in one of these upstairs zones, which would be pretty dope. The only downside is my TV area really needs a better power station in it. I'm struggling over there right now. And by struggling, I mean, I just have to use multiple power stations. Right now, I literally have the Ecoflow over there, which is power dumping into the Energizer P320, which runs my internet. I have the Bullbat over there, which was getting power from the EcoFlow as well. And that runs my TV because it uses 40 watts. I can't throw 60 watts against a 300 watt hour power station. It's going to be done in like 3-4 hours or whatever the math is, but it just won't last long. And then y'all have Dell complaining to y'all about the TV turning off all the time, which has happened a couple of times, and I feel terrible about it. And then I also will have another power station over there running my lamp. So that zone could really benefit from a better power station, but you know what I mean? I gotta be patient, and it's fine. You know, my time will come. Unless God say something different, I'll still be making videos, and you know, the numbers will keep coming up. I get about 150, 100 some odd, like 60 subscribers a month. I have a couple ideas for some really popular videos that'll probably pull in some more subs. I am starting to every now and then invite people to subscribe to the channel, because sometimes you just got to say it and then people do it because they're like, yeah, I'll subscribe. It's all strategy, I suppose. I'm not big on the subscribers for me. I just know that these companies see value in your subscription number, and then that gives them more opportunities to have more people see your videos because it's going against a bigger pool. So, you know what I mean? Just, you know, it is what it is. Let's see. So I don't like the fact that if I put that panel array in series, if something gets shade on it, then the whole panel is going to be out. But this last summer season, I did not move those panels at all. I did not run behind the sun. I just got what I got, and that was the end of the day. So I'm really settling into a situation where my panels are they just do what everybody panels does. They sit somewhere and they get the sun for when they get the sun. I don't have the space. If I did have the space, I would chase the sun. I don't think I would build something because I don't care for building, even though I'm sure I could do it. I don't care for it. I probably never would. If I could take time to do anything, it's not going to be outside building anything. I would just pay somebody to do it. And then I probably just wouldn't pay somebody to do it. But I just lean them up against something like I always do. But I've been okay with this idea of just getting the sun that I get. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. And I'm cool with it. But minimizing these wires is going to be interesting. Also, I have to think about these things in terms of the future. If I ever was to get an AC300, either by way of being able to afford one, I'd be balling out of control, so just crazy that I'd be cool with spending the money on something like that. I have to think about where I could do 2 arrays then, and I think that that's dope. So then you think about that with the transfer switch, then I no longer have to really play the game of trying to charge and get in as much power as possible, because that power then is all coming into one device. And then the transfer switch is actually taking that power and using it. And anything I can't use because we're Amish, according to Setite, we don't use a whole lot of power. Anything I can't use, I can power dump just from an outlet. I don't even have to bring the power station down to the power station to power dump. I just plug it right into the wall, and then it pulls appropriately from the wall whatever power it needs. I just think that that would be dope to have a system set up like that. Like, I'm still going to be using these power stations. I'm still going to be storing this power. I still have to worry about access because we just don't use a whole lot of power to begin with. You got like a 800 watt array producing, what is it? 20%. I'm going to take off. That's 80, 160. So we're going down to 640. That's 640 watts on a good day. It could possibly be more on a great day. 600 watts of solar coming into my house. I'm going to have to do something with it because we don't always use that much power. We just don't. But that's from the one array. Then I could also just plug the Renogy in just because I wanted to, because the AC300 has 2 MPPT charge controllers. I could have that 800 watt array coming into one, and then I could have that Renogy 320. I actually was about to buy 2 Renogys. It was a shipping situation. It was a new situation to me, but she actually ended up selling them, so it didn't work out. But I could have got 2 more of those. So realistically, I probably would have tried to put 2 of those in series into a power station. I don't have a power station that could take that. But again, that's why the AC200P is so interesting, because if I do, then I would have more capability. I was going to do 2 I'm thinking and planning about it. I would do 2 in series probably, and then 1 in the front of the house. I actually have a video where I kind of muse about that. That'll be coming out soon as well. So my point is, I'm thinking about this very futuristically speaking. AC300 would give me the opportunity to put 2 solar arrays into it. I could have 1 array in the front and 1 array in the back. I wouldn't do that. I would just have one array. I mean, I might do it, but I could have those 4 panels in series going into 1 charge controller, and then I could do anything on the other charge controller. Let's say I take my 3 Renogy 300 watts. They produce about 200 watts of solar, 180, 170, because I don't bother with angling them and all that. Then now I'm getting 800 watts of solar into a device, which is interesting. I think that's great. It's a good time. So we're just gonna keep plugging at it, growing the channel, helping you guys. I have to start strategically making videos that will appeal to the masses. And what I mean is every now and then, because I like the kind of content that I make. I'm asking you guys for your thoughts to see if you would like to see something different, because I think the appeal for me is like it's real life with solar. It's like actually using stuff. It's not just, testing it and, putting it away and all of that jazz. And I'm not knocking nobody who does that, because I think it provides a particular service. But this stuff, I enjoy messing around with all of these things and figuring this stuff out and learning and being able to share this stuff with you guys. Somebody sent me a message. Okay, everybody sent me a message. Nothing is connecting. Oh, geez. Oh, snap. One second, guys. So what happened with my tech situation, so really exciting, and I love the way you offer baby step talks as well. Yeah, I appreciate that. Sometimes my biggest problem is there's too many options out there that are close to what I want, but not one option that actually fits my needs. That is a struggle. I understand that 100%. Biden said a lot more racist stuff than Trump. That's interesting. That's fair. I mean, listen, at this point, 2 hours and 12 minutes, they all painting with a broad brush outside of the exceptions. Most white people suffer from being white. So Biden is not the exception. He's not the great black hope or anything like that. So Trump has said some pretty interesting stuff, and Biden has too. That's for sure. But hopefully this is not a competition of who said the most racist stuff. It's about where these people stand now. I feel like Biden's, he's evolved, hopefully. Trump is interesting. Yeah, it's just simple-minded logic. If I was shocked by anything any white person said, I'd probably have a heart attack or something like that. It's like this stuff is what's built into white culture and white society. So these people kind of parrot what they hear other people say, what they've been raised on, as does anybody. But America has a very racist history, so the stuff is built in. Racism is built into America. A lot of people they escape it through exposure, enlightenment, experiences, but the default, like I either read this book, I listened to this podcast, and I've seen examples of this in my own life. Not that my examples hold a whole lot of weight, but parents like to say that we want our children to play with people of different cultures and different races and stuff like that. And that's fine. I tip my hat to them. but society will segregate us. It's getting a little bit better. We're making progress. Cool. But I've had as a child, I mean, I had my neighbors across the street were white. I grew up in New Orleans. New Orleans is a chocolate city, as Ray Nagin affectionately said. And I think he got some flack for, maybe he got some flack for something else. But I remember their grandkids would come over and we would play together because kids just rock out. But I tell you what, me and that dude didn't play together when we was like 12 and 14. You know what I mean? He had his own set of whatever, and I had my own set of whatever. So it's like, yeah, we have good intentions, but we have to actively combat racism, bigotry, and what's the third one? There's three of them. A lot of people confuse them. Prejudice. There's three different things. Everybody wants to call everything racist, but now sometimes you're just being a bigot. Sometimes you're being prejudiced. Sometimes prejudice can feed your racism and all that jazz. It's very complex. Anywho, because I could talk about that stuff all day as some of these episodes have gone. I wanted to see. Okay, cool. You try. We said that. That's what I like about you and your channel, because you are about everyday life and like, absolutely. Are you suggesting that we use Bob Ross broad strokes to paint our pictures? If so, don't forget to put a few happy trees along the way. It's like people struggle with. Nobody likes to feel lumped into a group, and we have a lot of that in society, and it's unfair. I get it. I do, but for the intellectually honest and the intellectually the people who are coming from a position, a standpoint that have integrity and so on and so forth, it's like we understand that generalizations are what they are. It's a generalization. There are people, there will be outliers, there will be people who don't fall into that bucket. And there was another one about stereotypes. I forget her name. She has a very African name, but she talked about stereotypes, and she said the problem with stereotypes is not that they are wrong or something like that, but it's that they aren't completely true and they're taking it. So it was she said it in such a dope way. But it just is what it is. So the situation with me, I'm managing these power stations like I look forward to the day when I'm using more power from my solar than I am from the electric company, because I think I produce enough power to get by, but I can't spread it out as well as I want to without a transfer switch. I look forward to that day. I look forward to that day when I have a more capable power station, because I don't like being without power. I grew up in New Orleans. The power went out all the time. And that's kind of what has me on this kick of liking renewables and solar energy. Actually, I was watching it. Did y'all hear about this like Babcock Ranch stuff down in Florida? It's like sustainable city that has, they have all their lines powered underground, the power lines underground, or whatever it's underground. And they did pretty good against Ian. Now, this one dude, he did a video that said like the CNN and the coverage is a bit inaccurate because Babcock Ranch is like 20 miles inland. And they were comparing it to people who were like on the front lines of the storm and kind of painting this rosier picture. And the sad part, I was just like, yeah, that's what the news does. It's like, what do you expect them to do? They're not out here to compare apples to apples. They're out here to make people think a thing and keep watching. So it was an interesting thing, but I thought that was really peculiar. I couldn't help but notice that it was probably all white people there because of this way, the way the country is kind of set up. Chris Rock has a joke where he's like, in his community in New Jersey, and he was kind of like trying to speak to just the differences in terms of like achievement. And he was like, people who live in my community, Mary J. Blige, Jay-Z, me, is like he was modest about himself, but he's like, Jay-Z, arguably one of the best rappers of all time. Mary J. Blige, arguably one of the, the best performers of all time, just in terms of R&B and soul. He's like, and my neighbor is a doctor. he's a dentist. He said he's a dentist. It's like that kind of shows you what is hitting for in America, that the achievement, the levels of stardom that we have to rise to, the levels of achievement that we have to whatever compared to our white counterparts, kind of speaks to something in this country. Yeah, thug life. All right, I'm not gonna go down a racist joint. Not for my sake, because I don't care. I'll talk about anything, but for y'all's sake. If nobody has any more questions, we're gonna go ahead and shut this thing down and go be beautiful, right? Phone definitely died. Sometimes it's important to know the group you're in. For instance, I know my group. I'm an old, old fat ugly guy, and I'm okay with that. Yeah, self-awareness is very important. Very important. Is anybody, let's kind of end on this. Is anybody going to be purchasing any of these new EcoFlow products? Does anything tickle your fancy about them? We have the specs over here somewheres. I guess this is a picture of the Montec. It's not a great picture, but that's the new ones. I think that they look super cool. They look like some Halo alien invasion type stuff. This is a very interesting little device down there in that corner. I don't know what that is. I guess he was talking about the Montec. It's like 191. It's not bad. I wonder if they could I wonder if EcoFlow is going to make them a little bit cheaper for people who are in the group. They did that with that EcoFlow River. So I wonder if people will be able to get them for like 180, 150. 150 is a very interesting price. That's compelling for sure. Where are these specs at? Something I did not talk about the solar. No, the AC output specs on the Pro, because it was markedly higher. I think it was like 800 watts. The middle one was 600 watts. Dude, where is this at? It's like I lose this stuff all the time. Jeez. Oh, I think I had it in a picture. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's 800 watts of power, which is interesting. I guess that's cool. Surge is 1600. X boost is 1600. Can charge in 70 minutes, 60 minutes, 60 minutes. Like, yeah, whatever. It charges fast. It doesn't matter to me. Those things charge so fast that it's just nice. Oh, if you get Bluetti, get the AC200 Max, not the P if you're talking about getting power. Yeah, it's a situation where it's not me buying it, or it could be a nominal fee involved with the joint. So I prefer the AC200 Max over the AC200P all day. Just because it supports 12-volt panels. You don't have to have the joints in series. I think it has a 100 watt PV port now instead of a 60. I think it also takes in more solar. I think it's up to 900 watts of solar versus the 700 on the AC200P. I haven't looked into that stuff in a while, so don't get me to talking. I'm done with small devices. I'm only getting stuff that can run part of my house going forward. I ain't mad at that. I ain't mad at that at all. Yeah, I dig it 100%. All right, guys, if y'all don't have any questions, this has been wonderful. Y'all be beautiful, and I'm gonna get on out of here. I'll hang around in the chat for a little bit. Rewatching the joint, I'll try and add links as it is appropriate. I'm here by myself, so I don't got nothing else to do but edit videos or rewatch this back and add links. All right, y'all.